I have a question for you. So we have studied the first Anuvaka of the Rudra very carefully, and then we determined that here is a concept called Rudra, Shiva, who is very worshipful. Of course, now we find him very angry, and then with our prayers we have appeased his anger, and then he has become very favorable to us. And we have also discovered that he is worthy of our worship. This is what we also say, Bhadram Pashyema Akshabihi Yajatraha. The word Yajatraha means who are worthy of worshipping. So we have also found that Rudra is worthy of worshipping. We established that the need for our contemplation and the need for our prayer to him is because we are undergoing the tapatraya being Adhyatmika, Adibhautika and Adidaivika. We determined that he is our Ishtadaiva, and then we also extolled him both as the Mahadeva, who is the deity and also the greatest of all by Shambhave Namaha, Namaste Astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya and all that. Why should this Rudradhyaya continue? That is my question. When all this entire relationship is established, is there a necessity for us to continue, or for the sages, to continue the mantras of the Rudradhyaya? That question we are going to answer. What is the purpose of such questioning? It is because with such a limited time that we have got in our life, as I mentioned, Vidyutchalam Jivitam, Ayurnashyati Pashyatam Pratidinam, every day the ayus is going, one day lasts forever. And then the shadow of death goes on elongating as we grow older day by day. We have no time to waste on anything that is redundant. So every single mantra, concept, paragraph should be examined in the light of saying, is this necessary? So we will take up that question. So what is the fundamental message in the first Anuvaka? It is establishing a religion. The idea of religion is that there is a God, there is a concept called God, and this God is all powerful. He is capable of Shapa Anugraha Shakti. That means he is capable of blessing us. He is also capable of giving difficulty to us. So this Deva who has got Shapanugraha Shakti, and then I have got to establish a good working relationship with this Shapanugraha Shakti Daiva. So then, if we stopped at this, if we had stopped the chanting, the study of the Rudradhyaya at this point, we would all have become religious. We have become religious, and we would continue to observe all religious outward observances only. But for a thinking man, religion is inadequate. In fact, for a thinking man, we must go through religion and transcend it. It is only when we completely transcend religion, and then many lessons learned from our religious life is transferred into a spiritual maturity, there is any value. So now we have got to seek in the subsequent Anuvakas how this transformation from being a religious man will change into a spiritual man without jettisoning religion. Every one of these concepts is very, very important. Because I'm sure we hear of a lot of people who say, I am a religious person, I am a spiritual person, I don't care for religion. Please note, anyone who has got that feeling that one is spiritual and not religious has not understood. Sitting at Vyasapita, I can speak like that. A spiritual man is essentially a religious man. A religious man need not necessarily be a spiritual person. So that transformation has got to happen now. So that means there has to be a concept called realization. We use this word very, very loosely. But if you look at the word realization, what is that? Something is made real. What is the etymological meaning of the word realization? Something that is to be made real. So, you cannot make a thing that is unreal as real. You don't have to make a thing that is real again. Look at this Anyonyashraya situation. So what is it we have to try to do? All the doubts that we have got about the reality of an entity, when we are convinced about the realness of that entity, then we will have realized it. So the reality of the reality called Shiva has to be made real in our own awareness, and therefore Rudradhyaya has to continue. If it doesn't continue, and we stop at the first Anuvaka itself, no doubt we are religious, but we are not realized. Because the resonance of the reality of Shiva has not happened in our heart. And even though apparently because of our prayers, Namaste Astu Bhagavan, etc., we might have appeased Shiva. But if Shiva is easy to temper, and if Shiva is easy to be pleased, then what would a thinking man conclude? Oh, here is a person like IRS, I have to be afraid. IRS will be very pleased if I pay my taxes properly, and IRS will go after me if I have any error in my filing or in my declaration, isn't it? Is the relationship with Shiva like we have with IRS? It is very different, because if Shiva is to be understood like this, and we end our study of the Rudradhyaya, or we conclude that we don't need the subsequent Anuvakas, then what happens is all the Ragadveshas, which are a unique characteristic of a human being, is imposed on Shiva also. If you worship him, he blesses you. If you don't worship him, he is angry with you. In what way he is different from a human being with Ragadvesha? And therefore, the concept of realization has to come. Now the Bhakta should do the realization of Shiva as both transcendent and immanent. So this transformation of transcendency and intrinsically everywhere, this Shiva has to be seen everywhere. And that becomes Tattvajnana. When Tattvajnana has to come, then we will be truly practicing the Vedantic life. The distinct difference between philosophy of India, I am saying philosophy of India because this concept applies to other major religions also, Hinduism, Jainism and Buddhism. It is not arising out of wonder. Most of the philosophical thought in the Western philosophical thinking arises out of wonder and then culminates into metaphysics. But what is the Vedantic thinking? It is not a mere quest of knowledge, but to remove all the evil that troubles the human mind. And that is why in Vedic wisdom, religion and philosophy are inseparable. Whereas you can see in all other religions, religion and philosophy are distinctly different. So now we have got to find that ideal which blends philosophy and religion and transcends both. And that ideal has been established and called as moksha. So the ideal in the first Anuvaka is to establish a Bhakta and the Deva relationship. So the Daiva Bhakta relationship having been established, we have to go to the next step of realizing the moksha ideal. For that purpose, for the metaphysical moksha ideal, which is Jivan Mukti, so how should it go? The transcending is you stop at every one of your life experiences and move on. Swami Paramarthananda says this very beautifully. It is like you are going in a train from Chennai to Delhi, and then you stop at every station. You eat vada here, you eat dosa here, and you eat lassi there. You take that tea cup, but you don't stay back in those intermediate stations. So now Rudradhyaya goes on to say, what are those intermediate stations, in each one of which you can experience both the immanence and the transcendence of Shiva. Identify that, and then you experience that anubhava and then move on to the next stage. So progressively, as we study every one of the namas in future, Namo Hiranyabhave Namaha, Senanye Dishan Chapataye Namaha. So we go on studying each one of them, and then every single nama with namaskara you study now, that namaskara is different from the namaskara we did in the first Anuvaka. In the first Anuvaka, the namaskara was to pray, worship, appease, and make sure that harm does not come to us. But hereafter, as soon as you say namaskara, Namo Hiranyabhave Namaha, means what? I look at you as the one who has got the golden reach. Imagine the golden rays of the sun. You appreciate that, you do a namaskara, move on. So that concept of moving on is also referred to in the Kathopanishad. When we study the Kathopanishad, I'll again point this out to you. 2nd chapter, 14th mantra. Now in this mantra, ultimately our heart must be completely empty of all desires. So you look at one nama, one aspect of the binding desire of the heart is removed. You get to the next nama, another aspect is removed. Nama avyadhinibhyah vividhyantibhyascha vo namaha. That part of the desire is, you do namaskara to that. That means you acknowledge the existence of a desire. As far as possible, you experience the desire. And then we must also transcend. Then the Jagat Jivan Mukti is experienced in the very last Anuvaka when it says, Ayam me hasto Bhagavan, my hand has become the hand of the Lord. So how that transition takes place, we will see as we get into the Anuvakas, from the 2nd to 8th especially. So this is transcendence. So acknowledging all the values.
Stoicism is a philosophy.
It is a Greek philosophy, yes. Stoicism is a Greek philosophy. It says, okay, whatever happens, happens. It is raining because it is raining. What kind of an attitude is that? But if you see, when it is raining, oh my God, what a beautiful thing it is. It is nourishing it's nourishing the whole world. It is giving water. Look at the whole chain of how it rains, the sun evaporating and so on and so forth. Then heart becomes joyous. It becomes a grand experience. It makes us feel little in the creation without belittling our existence. Note this very point very carefully. Because if it belittles our existence, then what happens? We become depressed, saying I'm too small. We are small only in size. We are not small in experience. This is Atma Shakti. In Atma Shakti, you will never, under any circumstances, you feel small. You feel inadequate.
Uncle, how do you apply this to hardships that we go through?
Prarabdhaya samarpitam mama vapuhu ekesha manisha mama. Adi Shankara gave us a very beautiful explanation. You do all that you have to do to solve the issues. In all the powers that you have got, physically, mentally, intellectually, socially, and then you will say, okay, it is the prarabdha karma has to take place. I will go through that, that's it. If you say that this is all prarabdha karma and not do anything, then we have failed. We do everything and then finally out of jnana, Srimad Ramanujacharya says beautifully, what is bhakti? Shemushi bhakti rupa. Shemushi bhakti rupa means, Shemushi means jnana or knowledge. Who is a real bhakta? A real bhakta is one who knows. What does he know? At this point of time, all the hardships, the tapatrayas that have come into my life, I have done everything that I can. Whether it is counsel, whether it is working for it, whether it is trying to solve the problem by countering it, isn't it? If there is financial difficulty, earn more money. If it is emotional difficulty, combat that with strength, inner strength. If it is health issue, go to a doctor. I always say that. If it is a health issue, you pray. We do pray, we do have mantras. Why do we pray? So that Chitta Shuddhi is there, give me strength of mind. You don't pray and say, okay, I'm chanting Maha Mrityunjaya Japa, my cancer should go away. How does it go away? Go to a doctor. This is Viveka. Because a doctor is also an expression of Ishvara, isn't it? So, dhairya, sthairya. That's why that beautiful mantra, Ratan tapas, Satyan tapas, Shrutan tapas, Shantan tapo, Damastapo, Shamastapo, Danantapo, Yajnantapo, Bhurbhuvassuva Brahmai, Tadupasyai tattapaha, Bhurbhuvassuvaha Brahma iti. That is everything that is earthly, everything that is in the space, everything that is in the heavens. All that is Brahma, Bhurbhuvaswarom Yetat. One who draws inspiration, strength and resources from every one of these realms is the wise person. So you have done all that. After having exhausted everything, still there will be things that don't help us. At that point of time, what should we say? This must be prarabdha karma. You do not conclude something is a prarabdha karma until you have exhausted all that you can do. Andru em chestaro? First they will immediately say, oh, it's all my prarabdha karma. Before doing anything.
Somebody else's first.
Or it is somebody else's. Somebody else coming into our life is our prarabdha. Isn't it? So that is how we have got to look at that. So Rudradhyaya is going to take us, you will see the beauty in every step. In the next few mantras, the Samputi-karana takes place. Namo Hiranyabhave Senanye Dishan Japataye Namaha. So there are two Namahas on each side. So the meaning of the first Namaha is where Sarvaishwaratva. Sarveshwaratva means the Shiva is the one who is the Lord of everything. The second Namaha is Sarvantaryamitva, one who is everywhere inside. This is what I meant by transcendence and immanence. So we must experience in every experience of our life, good, bad and indifferent. Good, bad and indifferent is our analysis. When we label something as good, it is good. When we label something as bad, it is bad, that's all. But for a Viveki, it's a unit of experience, that's another unit of experience, the third unit of experience, isn't it? The one who takes like that is the one who has transcended. So Rudradhyaya is taking us there. That is why we have to continue. The Maharshi had to continue giving us the Rudradhyaya, and we have to continue learning its import, its meaning. We'll continue.